Right now in my life, number 2 is favorite. 2 days back, my marital status changed. 2 days from now, the honeymoon is going to start. And today I have 2 of my really close friends, good friends, to be present in the K community Chennai and give us a talk. Our first speaker is Pravin Sekhar. Moment I think of Pravin, I see we both were buddies in organizing the TEDx Chennai in 2010. We have cycled close to 3,000 kilometers. An athlete, swimmer, and makeup artist. Not much of you know about that. And man who laughs from the leg. We have heard people laugh from the stomach. Pravin laughs from the leg. Above all, a very simple, very lovely human being. So, stage is all yours, Pravin.
Great. General rules first. This is more of an open discussion. My topic reads market research trends and their use in knowledge management. Right? I don't claim to be an expert in knowledge management. However, the last decade of my life, decade and a half, has been in the realm of market research. So this is what I'm going to talk. For those tweeting, that's my Twitter handle. Do have the hashtag SOMAIN. Let me first start off with something light, something that I call an ice-breaking exercise. Now, you know this gentleman got married 2 days ago. Let's erase that for a while. Go back 3 months. Now, Subhash, at that particular point, an eligible bachelor in search of a girl. Now, he approaches the K community saying, friends, can you help me out? Now, what would your first thought or the steps be?
What's your salary?
What's your salary? Then?
What exact help do you want?
Right. What exact help you want?
Is he really a bachelor?
Yeah, good. That's something we need to find out. Yes, what else? Yeah.
What's the height and width?
What does his mom want? Good. So you are talking about stakeholders as well. Lovely. Lovely. Now let's say you've got the specifications. What next? What kind of girl you're looking for? What does she have to do? Likes, dislikes. You've got the specs. Right? Now what do you do? Search in Facebook. Good. Yeah, good. In my times it used to be temples and beaches, but now it's Facebook now. Good. So you've gone to these places. This particular gentleman is an expert in searching for girls in Facebook. So you've so you've got a set of girls. What next? Good. Look at that. Yeah. Good. What next? Come on. Yes. Interviews. Lovely. With Bajji and Soji, I suppose. Yeah. Good. So then you organize for that and get through. Right? This is the standard process. Good. Let's park this thought. And now I want you to work on a serious case study. Just imagine that the K community here is a part of the marketing strategy team of Procter & Gamble. Right? It's a serious exercise. So let's get down and have this. The problem that P&G is facing is they have a brand called Gillette. I'm pretty certain, except money, everyone else will be familiar with that. But the brand is Gillette. You're familiar with all the new things that are coming, 4-blade, 5-blade, N-blade systems. But the CMO of Gillette has a problem that these products are not selling in the rural areas of India. Right? So the problem statement is, what is wrong? How can I expand my market share in these regions? Right? And he comes over to the K community with this particular question. So what would your questions be? Now you have to answer a question with a question to break it down and get through. But this is a real genuine problem faced by the CMO or the knowledge head, so to speak, based on which he's got to take certain decisions. The problem is simple. He has a set of products which do not sell beyond the top 15 cities of India. But he's the CMO. He's got to take care of that particular thing. So what should he do? Or she do? Yeah?
First, get the whatever stats that you already have.
Right.
So, second, have you got already any feedback, or have you done any feedback with different segments in the market?
Lovely. So you're talking about segmentation. Yes, sir.
What other competitors are doing?
What other competitors are doing? Lovely. Yes.
I would go back and ask, why do you want those 15 products to sell in the rural areas? They are designed for the urban market.
Lovely.
Why would you even dare to think of
Good.
Why not innovate something new for them?
Excellent.
Are the villagers really shaving?
Very good question. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, somebody from there. This is a real life problem. What is the unique proposition of the product? Tie it down to why are you trying to thrust an existing product into a new market? Yes? What else? Are you selling to the right customer? Tie it down with segmentation. Who are we dealing with? Are you branding it right? Is the messaging right? Is the positioning right? All various questions coming in. Lovely.
What are the current shaving habits?
Lovely. Lovely. What are the current shaving habits? Excellent.
How to change that, right? Mainly.
How to change that? Good. How would you change it? Through marketing messages. Lovely. But that's an important question. Good. Are we done with the question?
Because of the cost that it is.
Cost. Price point. What are we talking about?
Is there any new channels that needs to be explored?
New channels to be explored in terms of reaching out with this particular target segment.
Anything actually? Panchayat codes.
Oh, sure. Distribution channels, messaging channels. Lovely. Yes.
One-man barber shops.
Oh, good. Bundle the product through. Right.
Traditional way of shaving and new ways of shaving.
Excellent.
You can give a demo guide.
Super. Lovely. I'll park it at that. Have these questions right because we're going to delve right in. I'm just going to provide a brief about market research here. And I will use the same Subhash example, break it down into layman terms. Simple segmentation is you go to the beach, you look at the figures, you observe them, that is qualitative. I am being flippant here but with a deliberate reason because it has to come down to the level. When you start looking, observing and finding out what are people doing, why are they doing, that forms a realm of qualitative research. When you start bean counting, when you start counting the figures, when you start counting the numbers, it comes down into quantitative. Now, the same Subhash example, what we would have ideally done is use the knowledge available here. We don't need to go out and ask. You would have your sisters, friends, etc. So the data is already available, which means that is secondary data that is available in the market, which is also known as desk research or secondary research. Right? Only when you have to validate something, you go out in the market and you start talking about, you go first hand, which is primary research. Now, let me loop it back in terms of the Gillette case study. There was a live case study. They used a combination of quantitative and qualitative. One, who is the target customer? I have built this particular product, which is an Americanized, westernized product into India. So therefore it sells in the top 15 markets. Now, if I have to find out what are the needs of this particular target segment, I need to understand what that target segment consists of. Who are these people? What are their habits? Practical example, your question, how often do they shave? What is the price point? Why are they not buying? Well, when you look at a qualitative research kind of a thing, you go and take a slice of life. You go and see how they are, what they do in their natural environs. You find out in the rural area, there is no electricity. They do not use running water for shaving. There is a price point, right?
They
So
don't shave themselves.
they barbershop shaves. Even if they do shave, how often? They generally shave about once a week, right? So a product that was designed for an urban daily shaving is not going to work in this particular scenario. And not to mention that these folks are not too familiar with the way the blades can be changed, right? So you go back to the drawing board. Then you find out on the quantitative front, how big is the market? Is this market worth going behind? How many people are there? What price point? Who is my competition? What kind of market share do they own? What distribution channels? Are all factors that need to be addressed and then fed back into the stakeholders. Now, when you look at research in general or you broaden it into knowledge, who are the stakeholders? You have marketing, you have marketing, which holds a key part in terms of what do I need to do, what price point, how. You have new product development, and this product, please do not mistake me, doesn't have to be a hardware product. It doesn't have to be a manufacturing product. It could be any product that you're talking about. It could be a concept, which is a product. It could be an IT product, but you need to figure out what is the market, what is the need. And then you have market research, insights, consumer knowledge, market knowledge, you call it by whatever name, that's a separate division. End of the day, it comes down to who is your customer, who is your client, what do they need, right? Now, in a simple scenario, you need a full face. Marketing is all mouth, right or wrong? I love marketing. Marketing is all mouth, research is all ears, but you have NPD in terms of looking at what the customer needs, design it, and you have something specific to sell or provide to a marketplace. Now, sales here, looking at it from a research point, is not hardcore sales. You have to sell a concept. If you are in the HR department, you've got to sell a particular thought or an idea. And any selling that happens, if you have proper relevant data behind it, the sale becomes that much more easier. Which is what market research is all about, allowing and enabling people to take data-driven decisions. Now I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. All of you are familiar with this logistics company, trucking company called UPS in US. The mandate, in this case it wasn't the marketing department, it was the planning department, it was the costing department which said, listen, we have to cut back on fuel costs. No other go. We're just spending too much with the way oil prices are going, fuel prices are going, we've got to do something about it. Can you guys guess what UPS went ahead and did? Which was of course copied by FedEx and all the other folks. Look at it from an American aspect. You can equate it, but what they did was went and studied where are we wasting, what is going on. And that was fed back into route planning. None of their trucks, lorries, whichever way you call 880,000 with 15 million deliveries, none of their delivery trucks ever take a left turn across the US. Across the US. None of their delivery vehicles take a left turn. That is the way the route is planned, because if it is a left turn, you've got to wait for the signal, it's going to cost time, it's going to cost fuel. End of the day, accounting team has to show some savings. This is a practical example of research feeding back. Research could have been done in any mode, right? That is one example. Now, let me talk about TVS Motors. TVS Motors, as you know, is quite big here. They had a challenge that they wanted to penetrate the Indonesian market. Market of Indonesia, don't ask me, I have no idea about that market, but TVS Motors went and set up an office and they came up with a product in the same segment very similar to what Hero Honda Street was, which is a gearless motorbike. Right? I don't know what they called it there, but the mandate given by that CEO to their new product development and the marketing team was in a span of 2 years, they will need to gain significant market share. Went back to the drawing board, found out more about the customer's need, brought it back to the drawing board and started developing a product suited, customized for the Indonesian marketplace. And one of the things that came up from research basically was that folks in Indonesia, I mean the mobile penetration there is significantly higher even than in India, which means at any given point a person is going to have 2 mobile phones. When you have mobile phones and you keep talking on it, what happens? Charge drains down. So that was fed back to the design team and they designed that two-wheeler with a mobile charger in. I can't think about it, but this is something completely out of the box. A lot of people might have poo-pooed that idea. This was a paper presented by them at one of the international research conferences as a proof that research works. That product within 2 years became number 2 in that particular market segment. Varied uses, but it comes down. There's one funny example that I would like to share with you. Some of you might know about it. Suddenly, folks started finding out that washing machine sales started going really high in Punjab. When you did a qualitative study, you go and find out they're using it for lassi. So you are trying to sell the product as something else. It is being used as something else altogether.
But I've personally seen that, in the washing machine.
You do that in your house? It's even come in, yeah, all over. Now, why is this important? Because for that particular state, somebody is told about communication and how you're going to communicate. Change the communication. If that's what the customers are using it for, that's what you would need to, isn't it?
Called washing machine or lassi machine?
If you do a Google, now they are called lassi machines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is basically some examples of market research. Now, MR as an industry is about $13 billion. Around the world. This doesn't include advertisement research and all the other ones. This is hardcore research. When you look at market research in an Indian milieu, Then you have the traditional market research companies. You also have the KPO and analytics companies, which again form a part of the larger supply chain. Some of you are automatically part of it, even though you might not call it research. It is dealing with numbers. It's dealing with what is the basic. If you want me to put it very simply, what is market research? It is common sense. It's something that we do every day. Now let me take another example. If you are going to buy a new TV, let's say a new flat screen TV or a new model has come in, what's the first thing that you do? You look at specifications. Now you've decided on 4 or 5 models, right? If it's me, I will Google about it. I'll call 5 of my friends and find out more about it. So word of mouth as a tool has been existing in the marketplace for a long while. It's only now that we've started harnessing the data that is coming out of it. More because of technology, but that's the last section that I will be covering. Now, if you want me to break it down, any market research is, as I said, is plain common sense. You have to work towards an objective which can be broken down into certain specifics. You then decide what mode am I going to collect data from, where, when, how. There are multiple modes. All of you will be familiar with the pen and paper systems that people come and ask surveys. 90% of India is still bent on it. You have another mode that calls you over telephone, which is called computer assisted telephone interviewing. Then the recent mode that has come in and taken the world by storm is online, and now mobile isn't far behind. These are various modes. Obviously, if I'm going to do rural, none of this is going to work. I need a face-to-face in that local language using some of those modes, community heads, panchayat heads to go and find out. Once I have collected the data, I have to analyze it. Where I can use simple XLS, I can use tools, I can take it higher into analytics front, but it is basic number crunching. Or even if you use qualitative data, you will have to break it down into something that you can analyze. Then comes the major part of reporting, where you take inferences and then you convert and put it through. There are 3 Sanskrit words that I will talk to exactly reporting about this, but I will hold on to that. But if you want me to break it down into very simple process, this is what it is. Each one of us will be specializing in one or doing the whole part. But end of the day, you're working towards an objective. You get some results, you feed it back and find out if it is working or not. If it is, to what percentage, then you start repeating it. My topic speaks about the new trends and the new aspects that are coming in. Now I'm going to read a few words. If you are familiar with it, raise your hand. But this is something that's taking the whole of the knowledge world by storm. Predictive analytics, predictive markets. Lovely. Big data analytics. Good. Gamification. Nice. Ethnography, neuroscience, text mining. Lovely. Eye tracking. Good. Just heard. Lovely. These are all newer modes in terms of collecting data, processing data, and what we are working on. Predictive markets is nothing but look at the stock market. It is basically wisdom of the crowds. Instead of, in market research, the traditional mode has been, if I need data or have to extrapolate the data for the whole of Tamil Nadu, I'm not going to go talk to every person here. I'm going to take a sample which is representative of the wider population. This has been the traditional mode. This is continuing. Predictive markets comes from the other line, completely other side, which says respect the wisdom of the crowds, and that in all likelihood is going to be much more accurate in a result rather than a scientific sample that is representative. Right? Predictive market, simply put, is a game where you're given play money. You have to take certain decisions based on which you are rewarded. It is not live money because we don't want the people to lose. But this is something that's significantly gaining ground in terms of predicting market behavior, brand behavior, and the like. So Shiva, you might probably be very interested in this particular aspect. Big data is more down the knowledge management alley than the market researchers alley. But what has been happening is, if you look at me 20 years ago, all you can find out about me is my studies, my experience, my telephone number, if at all. And 20 years ago I didn't have a phone. Right? Now if you want to find out, all you need to Google. There are several instances. You have a cloud figure. That's just me. If you take a million more like me, you're going to have hajar data, not just direct, which is active, but also passive information of others commenting about something or somebody. Now, big data, simply put, cannot work with any relational or reverse. An RDBMS is not going to work or help you in breaking it down. But it is important from a research perspective because you have such a huge bulk of data that is coming in that you will need to set up analytical frameworks to get out significant inferences out of it, which may or may not be possible, may or may not be possible in terms of the size and the depth and breadth of data that you are dealing with. Right? Let's get into the pet peeve, ethnography, which has its plus and minus in the popularity wave. Right now it's definitely riding a plus in the popularity wave. Without throwing any more jargons, ethnography simply put is a slice of life. Now the previous example of this villager and the shaving habits, it's as simple as going, of course with permission, sitting and just observing them for a period of time. Right? Now with technology, this is being even less intrusive. I put this thing, see what is happening through technology, thank you. I'll wrap it up in 10. Yeah. What is happening with technology is the mode is changing from an original market research mode where I talk and you listen, I ask and you answer. It is now slowly changing into a mode where all of you talk, I'll just sit silently, observe and take my notes. Right? Which is also called communities. Are you familiar with the term called MROCs, online communities? Which is more a marketing tool, but it has significance in the market research segment, because what a lot of companies are doing is building communities of their customers, allowing them to talk, finding out more about the brand, about the usage, about feedback. And there you also put the entire baton back in the respondent or the person's hands or the customer's hands. So they start talking and you start collecting significant data from that. These are all, let me give you an example of ethnography. Not directly an example, but a similar part of it. When you have, most of us have smartphones, and there are software tools that have come in that will enable a person to start writing online diaries and taking pictures every time he eats a packaged food. When he is traveling from home to office, GPS is on, he has to take pictures of the advertisements that he sees. Where you are not coming in as an interviewer, I am participating as a respondent, this is all permission based. You are not going to get spammed by a market researcher. It's all permission based, where it's completely dependent on your part. The other thing that is coming in, the last section, of course, I will talk about data privacy, personally identifiable information. But new things that are coming in is in terms of eye tracking. As simple as finding out which user interface is good, but it's also used for shelf tracking. When you go in for retail, where are you going to place? How are you going to place? Yes, and the market basket analysis. If you pick this, what else are you going to pick? And more importantly, how are you going in? It used to be really funny. You used to wear the glass, really big glass, and then with a camera out there. But this is becoming a lot more simpler, a lot more Mission Impossible types. But the basic idea is to go in. There are additional streams, which is mystery shopping, satisfaction studies. I'm not going to dwell on that, but these are all extremely getting impacted by technology, which means a lot more people are jumping into the market research world, either the entire stream or some of these. Now it is important for you to know that culture plays a significant aspect. I'll give you an example. When I was still in school or just getting into college, if I asked for permission for a movie, of course it has to be funded by the parents, in my case my mother. I asked for one movie, I'll get the money. If I want to watch another movie that weekend, I'll be met with silence. Right? The reason I'm telling this is, in a research aspect, it's not just the said, it is also the unsaid. Which is why it is so coincidental that you have an NLP person talking right after, because a lot of qualitative researchers also use NLP techniques in terms of assessing, in terms of reading the body language. And the reason I say it was a lovely paper presented by a Mumbai-based researcher on the sound of silence and how it is interpreted in research. Silence by a Japanese is a completely different matter of deference and respect. Silence South India is completely different. So a researcher has to be aware, not just take the data and slice it, but also build on top of it in terms of what the culture is. For example, our South Indian culture, we've been taught not to brag, right? And we've been taught to take a neutral stand, whatever be the case. Neither go to that extreme, nor to this extreme. That has significance when we do market research, because we need to know what weightage to give, especially if I'm talking to a conservative Southie, because it's going to be right down the middle. A 5-point scale, we're going to have lots of 3s, right? So it's important for us to put that part through. I've got 10, I know that. Moving into the data collection, data analysis, data reporting. Yeah. Reporting, analysis, inferring, you've got to feedback based back to the objective. Everything comes down to the objective, what you want to do. Right? Technology, if you look at it, has gone through significantly. I'm not going to dwell on it, but the convergence wave has had significant effect on market research as well, which is having a significant effect all through on data privacy and personally identifiable information. It's so easy for me to put a cookie and track what each one of you is doing, which a lot of companies still do. That's against the rules of market research. It's all permission based, which means I will request you, I'll tell you clearly, this is why I would need for that particular point in time, and it's easy for me to track from a locational perspective from where the person has been, and from research. A lot of companies are now starting to beam locational research. So if I know you are somewhere near T Nagar and GRT, then you will get a survey related to that, provided you give permission, but that's the way it is going. It still hasn't taken on in India because the
Foursquare is doing that.
Foursquare gives the location, but they aren't yet into research.
Recent story of Google. They took the camera car while they going, right?
Yes, and picking up the Wi-Fi information, which is complete no-no. Google Street Maps, but it also started picking up the Wi-Fi data. Yeah. Street information is fine. You can't pick personally identifiable information, right? But Google is a recent entrant into market research. For those of you who aren't aware, they have jumped into the world of market research. They are offering their own panels, but predominantly for shorter customer service surveys. Hopefully they'll do a phenomenal job, right? But when you take up these things, it's important for you, even from an online or other part, from a knowledge management perspective, all this is extremely important because of the 3 Sanskrit words that I spoke about. I'm sure you'll be familiar, buddhi, siddhi, riddhi, right? What MR provides is the buddhi or the knowledge part of it. How you make use of it is the inferencing, which is the siddhi part of it. And then end of the day, you got to throw enough jargons to get the riddhi or the money part of it. But you need to know how to convert that part in terms of converting it into billing. There are various types. Everything is not about money. There is one major stream called social research. Social research takes the entire, for example, India is already westernized. We've got a whole bunch of young, hypertensive, diabetic folks out here. That's a social part of it. HIV, the prevalence, where it is and how it spreads is another mode of social research. Right? That may or may not concern finance, but it does concern the population at large, which is the society and hence social research. You've got marketing research, industrial research, competitive pricing, concept testing, new product development, standard customer feedback, are all various modes, but all dealing with significant amount of data, and there are multiple ways to look at it. For those of you who want, I would request you to Google market research, beer and diaper. I'm not going to talk about that example. It's fairly well known, but you can go ahead and Google it, a Walmart example. Some say it's a myth, some say it's a legend, but whichever way it does, it is an example of a practical use or a potential use if you're going to talk about that. But where we are heading towards is the borders are blurring. What is market research? Who is a knowledge management professional? What do management consultants do? Technology is blurring these borders. Each one is going to step on each other's toes, so we would as well be more inclusive. Management consultants technically use market research data to come up with their prognosis or recommendations into companies. Knowledge management experts are going to jump in left and right. TCS has a huge market research wing where they do the support services around market research. So the borders are blurring. It's important for us to know what is happening in the marketplace and how can it be leveraged. In my case for market research, the wider gamut. In your case from a knowledge perspective. With that, I'll come to the last part of mine, just 4 words. Common sense, but apart from that, you observe, you act, you analyze on the action, and then you repeat it. This is pretty much, in simple terms, in layman terms, what research is all about. Something that we do every day, we might not realize it, but it has affected us in every major part of whatever we do, and it's the same for any field or any function or any business division that you're looking at. These 4 words is all about MR, and these are the trends that are pretty much significantly going to help those who want to jump right in from a knowledge perspective, from a data perspective. And that's all I wanted to share with you. I'm open for any questions.
Pravin,
Yep.
yeah, there are actually 2 ways to reach the customer or sell to the customer. One, just as simply, as you mentioned, observe, see what the current needs are, create a product, sell it to them at the price which they can afford. The second parallel line is actually, this is the Warren Buffett way, right? The one, conservative, whatever call it. The other thing is actually Steve Jobs' way. You create something that what you love, what you like, right? And do something and make the people to buy that. So this is 2 different track of selling, but is any point and any overlap in terms of market research, does it help the second model or is it only for the first model?
If you're going to quote, and I love Jobs, he did issue a statement that they did not do any research. But he contradicted himself in the 3rd paragraph that there was a significant amount of user interface testing that happened with the general public. What is user interface testing with the general public? You ascertain the views.
But that's improvement of the product, right? Not about selling, but it's
Research touches every point. It's not just sales. It's in terms of how you design the product, how you develop the product, how it reaches, how it is consumed, and how it is fed back. Yeah? Research is basically what you want to do. So it's not a fixed model that you try to adopt. It is towards your objective. What is your objective? Yeah.
Pravin, I somehow come to a conclusion that what people think, what people say, and what people do are 3 different things.
Absolutely.
So how does your research essentially corroborates?
That is
Especially, the surveys or what people think.
Yes.
Question interviews or what people say, and observing what people do. So how do you use them, and how do you, for a given problem, how do you choose which one do you?
Very interesting question, because that is a question that has only been partially answered. For example, if you ask me, will I be interested to buy a Benz? Right? I will say, yes, I'm very interested. But the next question has to be, what is my household income? Do I have the capabilities in any way to go ahead and pick it up? So it all comes down, when you define the objective, you also define to whom is this addressed? How are we going to ask the question? Where are we going to ask it? And that is going to provide a major answer. The question remains that I might say I want to go and purchase it. I might not display that behavior. And that is something we'll have to tie down.
Adding to this question, I read somewhere that instead of asking for questions in a survey pattern, people are now asking them to play online games.
Yes.
And their behaviors or what would their responses be, or how would this person go and get it, is calculated from that rather than asking that. How has that strategy fared?
The strategy has been on for a while. I wouldn't call it from an online perspective. The surveys have been designed as games. You have decisions that they have to take. It's like playing in a stock market. Your decision A is going to affect the 4th question or the 5th question. With technology, it is picking up, but it still hasn't reached mainstream. There are lots of companies, Brain Juicer, GMI, are all playing around with this gamification. The response rate is better, but we still need a lot more data to say, yes, this is perfect, as simple as that. But what I can tell you right now is the response rates have increased, the participation rates have increased, because people like answering or playing, based on which we take data, rather than boring surveys that keep going on. So it is a change, we welcome that change.
Hey, Pravin, this is Divakar here.
Yes.
So the question is how the market research companies are curating the content because of the information overload here. So what kind of models are used to get the right content? How the filtering process is happening in the
Filtering process happens at all levels. It is segmentation he was talking about. Segmentation can be on a geographic level, on an income level, on a socio-economic classification level. So that keeps happening at a significant part. You're talking about hardcore number crunching.
No, my question is, I have plenty of information already available. Okay,
Right.
if I Google it, I can get it.
Yeah.
But I have a problem to get the right content. So what are all the methods you are using to get the right content? How the...
Right. You're talking about from a text base of it.
Yes.
We have to use text-based software to weed out. There are several, even Mesh Labs has come up with a product that is going to fine-tune. You can't go through this entire bulk of data manually. So you will have a process called coding. The software tool will automatically code that text. You will have the verbatim text, and these codes will then be quantified and you can analyze them. A simple example is sentiment analysis. A lot of these codes, very simple sentiment analysis, positive, negative, neutral. So if a movie comes out, based on the comments that are there in the World Wide Web, you bring it down into one system, you clean, you knock off extraneous data. You also knock off data that might be, that sound different. For example, soccer, football, everything else is going to be different. You feed it into the text, into the software. It breaks it down and uses its algorithm to break it down into positive, negative, neutral. It still needs a manual person to go down, reclassify wherever it is wrong. That's the simplest part, also called sentiment analysis, which is again growing, but I think it's reached its saturation level. People have gone much farther ahead.
Pravin, first of all, thanks for making market research so simple, because as a marketeer, I always feel from the healthcare sector that market research is always used as a sleeping pill.
In India, it's more of an insurance.
Yes.
I've taken the decision, I've gone to the market, please give me some data to corroborate.
Yeah, exactly. So now a very serious insight into the market research. It's more into social research, because I have some data related to social research which is doing for last 2 years. In fact, I was doing an ethnic community in Nilgiris, people who are aware about Nilgiris, Ooty, in and around Ooty. The statistics shows that out of every 100 patients we did a healthcare screening for in the areas of diabetes and hypertension, the incidence was almost 30%. 30%. What Dr. Mohan from Chennai, he quotes around 20%, but it was alarming 30%. And we was going slightly deeper into that and to find out why this 30%. We found out that only 5% of that ethnic population knew that they had diabetes. Remaining, that means they were on any medication. Remaining 25 were not on medication, and first of all they were ignorant that they had diabetes. They were thinking diabetes for some other illness. Okay, now interpolating the data to the urban life, it is more shocking. More shocking in the sense it is more common in the most educated society. Interpolating the data means
let's get right to the question.
Yes. So in a college, in the same analysis in a college, and I found that the data was even more alarming. It was more than 35% that too in a pharmacy college. Now through you using the social research thing, how especially in a IT scenario, because they are into high pressure work and all, where this research can be definitely helpful, in fact diagnosing their own illness.
I would look at it more from an awareness point of view. The previous examples that we saw pretty much had a financial angle to it. This has a social angle that based on this research, you've got to get the data to the people to create an awareness so that they are aware. It's very important for this community so that it goes up and down. We've got, at least I've got kids and I've got aged parents at home. So it's easy for me to spread the awareness level. But it has significant impact, and a lot of social research is being funded by Gates Foundation, by World Bank and several other funds, because they want the awareness to come in. Divakar, just to give an example to your question, there's a company right here called Om Analytics that does text mining. Yeah. So you might want to talk to them. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I really enjoyed your talk. I just want to share a small thing on MR bias. Can I, for 2 minutes?
Yeah, MR bias is a huge topic. If there's a question, I'll address it. Otherwise, we'll take it offline.
Okay, it's just a graph to tell people like how MR is being, interpreted, and how it impacts even an educated person. So
sure.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Sure, thanks.
The question that I had, you mentioned in many of the cases, in rural India at least, right, you still have surveys where you send out a question and people fill that out.
Yeah.
Right? But one challenge that I would anticipate is that any form of survey, right, you have a problem in people responding because there is no self-interest angle there, right? So, and the respondent rate would be 10% or 20% at max in terms of what you get.
Yeah.
Right. So, whatever experiences you have seen, how this.
One, the format has to be different, and two, you and I can't be going and doing the survey. So we take the help of a community leader or a local NGO or a self-help group, and go along with them and ask questions. And at that kind of a level, the questions are more open-ended. I'm not trying to box. And these people love to talk. You have no issues on the response rate, but you need to go with the right people in terms of getting the proper responses. Yeah. I'll give you one simple example. We were asked to conduct a survey among mothers who had delivered in the last 48 to 72 hours. It was a global study, and they approached us. This client wasn't familiar with India, and he said, listen, in US, the minute the baby is born, you have Johnson & Johnson and P&G inside. Then I had to turn around and I had to tell them that after my kid is born, even I need to have a bath and I'm quarantined out for at least a couple of weeks, which is the culture out here. So forget about trying to get a face-to-face interview done with these people.
But face-to-face interviews, right, you have a lot of cost that gets going into it for the result, right? So you would use other mechanisms which are most cost-effective if you just want to reach out to a large brand.
Yes.
Right? And in those scenarios is what I was referring to, where you have 10%, 20% rates, right? So from your practice, what do you think helps in increasing those survey respondent rates?
You have to get back to the basics. The medium is secondary. Right? I know that a few market research agencies have already moved into not the tablets but the PDAs kind of a thing, which helps in consuming time but does not address the response rate issue. You still need to go back to the basics, go along with the right person. So when we do studies with HIV affected people, we need to go with that NGO that is familiar with these people and use a snowball sampling and take the next referrals from them.
So somebody whom they know.
Yes, otherwise it's just not going to be possible. Yeah.
Right. Sir, I'm taking the same example which he has said. No, this is how, I'm talking from a research perspective. He is a researcher, so am I. So I have to support him also. But from a general perspective, how even intelligent, educated people can be easily, fooled, you can say, or misled, is through the MR reporting structure. So if you see these two things, same example I am quoting, Gillette and Topaz, the market penetration is shown in two scales. Here, if you see, it is big. I'm talking about you can easily create a controversy by showing by changing the scale. Here I'm putting it as it's 10, it's 5, and 5, 10, 15, 15, 5. So here the scale is 200. So if you see that, I can easily say we are reaching Gillette closely. We are measuring up to Gillette here because it is same scale 5 and 15. So this is how they advertise in national newspapers. I have seen it in US also. That both the data are same, but when you see it as the green color and please read the scale here, legend here.
Right. This
is one thing. And second thing, you can easily create a controversy in India or anywhere in the world by saying, men and women. You will get hundreds of, calls saying men are superior to women, religion, sex, gender, dress code, anything you can do, you can create a controversy in India by showing this thing, which is very intelligence of men and women. So I'm just sharing this so that, you don't get.
Okay, so there's just one thing, you've been misled here. This is not MR bias. MR bias basically is, if you support a political party, and I know that, I can't ask you which political party you're going to support because the answer is going to be deliberately biased. Okay. This is very simple. All of us do that. This has nothing to do with market research. It's a question of taking only that portion of data that you want, leaving the entire part out of it. It's like you going home and saying, I came second today. Fine. How many people participated? 2. Right?
It's the same. See, it is like I call this as truth and absolute truth. Truth, both are truth. Okay. When what makes your impression absolute truth is your mentality or your framework. Truth is when I say this is my child, son, it is truth. But when my wife says this is my child, it is absolute truth. That's where we play the game. Thank you.